Alright guys, welcome back to Learnlyte. Today in this video we're going to talk more about strings, right? So we're going to talk about string indexes and string traversal using for and while loops. Alright, so let's begin. So first you have to understand what a string really is. So a string basically is a sequence of characters, and we can access each individual character by using the bracket operator. So let's take a look at it. So let's first begin by creating a variable fruit. I'm going to create this variable fruit and I'm going to assign a value of bananas to it. Alright, we'll go ahead and hit enter. And then now, if we want to access a certain character within the string, we can use the bracket operator. So we're going to say fruit. And then inside the bracket operator, I'm going to put 0. That's square brackets, and you can see when we put 0 into the square brackets we get B. So remember, a string is just a sequence of characters, and we can access each individual character using the bracket operator. So how does the bracket operator work? Well, the bracket operator is basically square brackets, and inside the brackets we can put a index. So an index is basically just a number, and then what it returns to us is that the character at that number. So for example, you should note that every string index begins with 0. So if we want the first letter of a string, then the index of that string is going to be 0. Let me show you another example. I'm going to create a variable called car, and then inside this variable I'm going to say Honda. Alright. So if I want the first character of this string, the index is going to be 0 because all string indexes begin with 0. You see, once I did here, I get H. So if the first index is 0, then you can imagine that the second index will be 1, the third index will be 2, and so forth. So with this in mind now, we can access each individual character of a string by using its corresponding index. So let's say I want the A in banana. Alright, so I'm going to say fruit. And because I want A, well, the first A anyways, the first A we know to be in the position right after the B. So if B is index 0, then automatically the first A should be index 1. So we're going to put 1 inside square brackets, and we get A. Similarly, for car, we can see that the D comes right after the N. So if H is the first index, which is at index 0, and O is at index 1, N is at index 2, so D should be at index 3. So let's say car, and in brackets we're going to put 3. We do get the D. So key note when performing string indexes is that the string always begins at index 0, and then the second letter would be at index 1, the third letter would be at index 2, and so forth. So just bear that in mind. So to get the first character of any string, it is always index 0. Now let's take a look about string traversal. So now we'll talk about string traversing a string basically. This is normally accomplished by the use of a for or a while loop, although it is more ideal to use a for loop. Traversing a string means basically performing some form of computation on the string. This involves beginning at the start of the string and then selecting each character in turn, do something to it, and then continue to the end of the string. This pattern of processing is what we call string traversal. So, with all that in mind, let's take a look at an example. So let's begin by writing a function we're going to call index. And what this function is going to do basically is traverse the string and print every single character within that string. So the function name is index. It's going to accept an argument called string. And what we're going to do is we're going to use a for loop to traverse this string now. So we're going to say for char, this is just the variable name, in string. So it's for char in string. And what we're going to do is for each character in the string, we're going to print char. All right. So char is a shorthand way of writing character. So we're using a for loop right here now to traverse the string and print each character of the string. All right, so let's go ahead and hit save, run. Oops, forgot my brackets. And save, hit run. Let's call the function index, and we're gonna pass a string. We're gonna pass my name into it. Hit enter, and we get THEODORE. So that's basically how a traversal of a string works using a for loop. So we begin by first saying for char in string. So what this is saying, for every character in this string right here, we're gonna print the character. So char will take on the value of each character within that string, or basically each index. It's going to represent a character, and char is going to become that value. So for the first index, which is 0, the value is t, and it prints the character at index 0. Then it prints the character at index 1 all the way to the end of the string. And this is an example of string traversal. This is done using a for loop. Let's take a look at one that is done using a while loop. Alright, so let's begin by writing the function. So we're going to say def, I'm going to call this index2. This is also going to accept a string argument, but this time around we're going to use a while loop to traverse the string. So we're going to begin by saying a variable called index. We're going to initialize it to 0 because we know that the index starts at 0. And we're going to say while index is less than len. And inside len, I'm going to put string. So you're probably wondering what len is. Len is a built-in Python function that basically returns the length of a string. So if we pass a string to the len function, it tells us how many characters are basically in that string. And that's all the len function does. So we're going to say while the index is less than the length of the string, we're going to say letter is equal to string, and then in square brackets we're going to put index, and then what we're going to do after that is print letter, and then we're going to update the value of index. So index equal index plus 1. Alright, we're going to hit save and run. So let's see if it works. I'm going to call index2, and we're going to pass my name into it. Let's see if we get the same thing. And we do. So you can see how we traverse the string using a for loop and a while loop. Alright, so just to reiterate some key points, we talk about string indexes. So essentially a string is a sequence of characters, and we can access each character by accessing their index. And we know that for every single string, their index begins with 0. So to get the first set of any string, we always use index 0. So if we were to say fruit equal apple, we gotta put it in quotations. We hit enter, and we want the first letter of it. We simply pass 0. And we get A, so keep that in mind. Second thing we talked about was string traversal. So string traversal is basically when we process each character of a string from beginning to end. So whatever we do to each character, we could simply just print them in this case. That's what we've been doing. Or we could transform them to uppercase, lowercase, whatever we want. But string traversal usually involves us beginning with the first character of a string, doing something to it, then we do similar things to the rest of the characters within that string until it reaches the end. And we know that there are two ways to do string traversal. We can do it via a for loop, which is more efficient, or if you want to go a longer route, you can do it using a while loop. Alright, so for the for loop, you can see it's just 2 lines. for char in string, and these are just variable names. So char will take on each individual character of the string here, and what we're doing to each individual character is simply print the value. While in the while loop we create a variable called index and initialize it to 0 because we know that the index starts at 0. Then we say while the index is less than the length of the string, and we know that len is a built-in Python function which basically returns how many characters is within a string. We say letter is the string, and we pass the corresponding index to it. We print the letter right here, and then we update the index so that it can repeat the steps as necessary. And that's it. And that's it for part 1 of this video. This video will be I should say the topic strings will be a 3-part video, and this is just part 1. So I look forward to seeing you in part 2, where we will discuss more about strings. Alright, so thank you for watching. If you like the video, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And once again, thank you for watching.